Bonjour mesdames et messieurs. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to do long exposure photography. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, my name is Serge Ramelli. I'm a French photographer living in Paris. I'm traveling right now and I make 2 tutorials per week. If you want to get them every week, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking here. And if you want to get the raw files of all the past episodes, just click here. In last episode, I showed you how to use Pixelmator to blend 2 exposures and then retouching it in Lightroom. That's the final result. It's an awesome software and you should check it out if you don't have the finances to buy Photoshop and if you have Lightroom. This week, I'm going to show you what it takes to make long exposure photography. That's the final result. I'm going to show you all the different settings about the camera and I'm going to show you the gears that you need to make this long exposure photography. So, here is the tutorial. Alright guys, so before we jump into how to take long exposure, let's talk about gears for a second. The first thing you need to make long exposure photography, the obvious thing that you need for long exposure photography, and if you're already an expert into long exposure photography, let me warn you that this episode is going to bore you. I'm not going to learn anything. This is for people who are starting and wants to make it easy on making long exposure shots. So the first thing you need is a tripod, and last year when I was at Photoshop World, I found this brand called meFOTO. I've been using a Gizmo tripod for years, but I paid $800 for that tripod. It's very light, very stable. And you know, not everybody can put $800 on a tripod if it's not, you know, your own profession. So here's my suggestion. meFOTO's tripod are amazing. They are very light, not as light as Gizmo, but look at the price. $189, $200, $139, and these ones are amazing. Actually, that's the one I recommend. The $139 because they're very light and they're very stable. And they even have, you have to look on B&H, but I think they even have some carbon fiber. Yeah, so it's more expensive because carbon fiber makes them very stable and very light. So it jumps from like $189 to $369. But if you can afford it, it's about half of the, not half, but about a third less of the weight. So first thing first, you need a tripod. Second thing, and that's what I recommend, you need what we call an ND filter. You basically have 2 types of ND filters. What I recommend is using what they call variable neutral density filters. Provides 2 to 8 stop lights of control, meaning that as you turn the filter, it's going to get darker and darker and darker. And based on your conditions, you can adapt your filter. It takes a bit more a bit more work to get used to it, but it's amazing. All these links will be in the description of the video, so you don't have to look for them. What I use is Stephen variable neutral density filter. You know, you just have to look what is the millimeter diameter of your lens and just buy the right one. If you want to go for a cheaper one, there is one which I found really good also is this one, the Bauer at $36. It gives it more for color cast, but if you're just starting and you don't want to invest too much money, you can go for Bauer instead of the Tiffen, which are like more expensive. And you can just look at the reviews on B&H. So the whole idea of a neutral density filter, all it does is darkens your, the glass that you're using, so less light is coming, and so you're able to do long exposures even if it's not the night, because more long exposure, more silky is going to get the water and the clouds. Okay, last but not least, you need to have a remote. There is many remotes out there. I recommend using the wireless ones. They are very cheap, $20 for whatever your brand is, sometimes even $10. The only problem is that you have to, when you press, basically the whole idea is when you press once, you start taking the photo, and when you press a second time, you stop taking the photo. If you are in bulb mode, which is the long exposure mode. So now some cameras do not have bulb mode because they are like, not very high-end DSLRs. But anyways, you usually can go to 30 seconds, and 30 seconds is enough to give a good, nice long exposure effect. Okay, so now once you've got the gear, I made for you a little checklist which you will find with the raw files for free with this episode. So you have it as a reminder, this is a checklist. So hopefully you do have a bulb mode. So you put your camera in bulb mode, of course, on a tripod. Make sure you are using raw quality, because you want to get the best out of this shot. White balance doesn't matter because you're shooting RAW, so you can correct it afterwards. So I just go automatic white balance. ISO 100 or 200, basically the lowest ISO you can for your camera. So for example, for the Sony A7R, I think it's 50 ISO, but I've read on the web that 100 ISO actually gives more quality or better quality than 50 ISO, whatever, you know, that doesn't really matter. Just lower your ISO as much as you can, you know, because you don't want, already the process of long exposure and filter can enter noise. So you don't want to have that, plus you want the best quality pictures, plus you want the longest exposure. So ISO the lowest you can. And then, now in terms of f-stop, I say between 7 and 16 is ideal. The reason for this is that if you go higher up than 16, you're going to get a lot of sensor dust on your photo because above 16, the sensor does become very visible. And under 7, you're going to have some depth of field issues. So that's why I say between 7 and 16 is a good f-stop value. Okay, so once you've done your settings like this, you frame your subject. That's pretty easy, or whatever, you know, that's your eye as a photographer. Then you focus on the subject, make sure you are very sharp focus. Okay, then you put yourself in manual focus, because once you put the filter on, the camera will not be able to focus anymore, because you're going to put a filter that's going to stop the light from coming in, so there will be no way to focus anymore. So that's why you do the focus first, then you put on manual focus your camera, and then you put your filter on once you've framed your subject and you have focused your subject. Okay, and now you're ready to rock and roll. Now, there is apps out there that will help you calculate, you know, how much time you have to wait. I've never done that. I've been doing long exposure shots for many years, and I just go, you know, with my feeling. What I do is I start off with like a 10-second, you know, so you press the remote once to start the photo, you know, you wait like 10 seconds and you stop it. And then you look, is it too bright or is it too dark? If it's too dark, make a longer exposure. If it's too bright, make a shorter exposure. If it's too dark and you cannot go over 30 seconds because you don't have a bulb mode, well then open your aperture. You know, the whole idea is that long exposure starts looking good after 1 second or 2 seconds of long exposure. You can get amazing effect when you go like into 1 minute to 2 minutes long exposure, but that's more technical, and I will do videos on that in the future. But not now, this is just for people getting started. So you press the remote once to start the photo, you wait 10 seconds, you press the remote to stop. Then you see, is it too bright or too dark? Too bright, you make a shorter exposure. Too dark, you make a longer exposure. And you just go by the feeling, okay? So here we go into Lightroom, and let me show you some of the few shots that I'm going to give you so you can see with them. This is not a long exposure shot. This is, you know, it's very famous in long exposure to have this one little wooden bridge, you know, with clouds at the end. This is something I've seen many photographers do, so I thought it was a cool subject. And Matt Kloskowski from Kelby Training showed me this place in Dunedin, close to where they live, and where there's, you know, this sort of wooden bridge. So I went there. The first photo was shot as 1/8 of a second at f11. So it's a regular shot. There's no filter on. You can see the water is not silky and the sky is the sky. Okay, now I did the checklist that I gave you, and the next photo is a 30 second at f16. Now check it out. Look at the sky. The sky is completely, well, let me show you like this. Blurry, you know, and the water is silky. It's a total different look. Check it out. I'm going to select both and press C so you can compare. Okay, let me take that out of the way. And let me take that out of the way. So on the right is the regular shot. On the left is the, look at the water. See the difference? The water here is, you can see the wave here is just, you know, total silky. Actually, this one shot is a bit blurry. I think I've got a better one. Let me, this is another one. This one is pretty sharp. It's a bit too bright. That's again 30 second at f16. But the reason why it's brighter than this one, what I did is as I explained, you know, I have a variable density filter, so I opened up a bit the filter to make it a bit brighter, so more light would come in. That's another way you can play with the light. The result, well, was a very bright photo, but this one is pretty sharp. Now look at the difference. Again, with a regular photo and this one. I'm going to press C on Lightroom so it compares both. And let me zoom in. So let me take part of the bridge. You see here, the bridge is clear and sharp. And the water is, you can see the wave here, the water is like completely silky. Okay, look at the sky here. You know, the clouds are getting fuzzy. I mean, this one is a bit too bright, and here you can see the cloud regularly. Let's take another one. Let's take this one, for example, which is less bright. You know, so you still got the silky water and the fuzzy sky. Okay, let me show you at without the compare mode. Oops, sorry. Okay, let me zoom out. So then what I did is that I played around with the, you know, I played around with the framing. Once I've got, you know, F16 and 20-second worked for me. And the reason why I'm at 20-second is because I had forgotten my remote that day. So I could not go into the bulk mode on my Sony A7R because you really needed a remote for that. And I didn't have it on me. So I had to stay around 30-second max. But so that's why I did not close fully my filter. I used it only at like halfway about. I could have gotten darker and made like a minute or two of exposure, but I still liked what it did at, you know, 30-second. I like this one at 30-second, you know how it did. I like this sort of, this one's a bit too bright. This one is kind of cool. Then I tried different framing, like a third of bridge, 2/3 of sky, you know, the horizontal line in the middle, and more bridge, a bit less sky. Then I moved to another place, which I thought was pretty cool. That is 30-second on that boat is totally, but you know, I kind of like what it did there. And, you know, and that's another boat. And now on this one, the problem with 30-second is that the boat was completely blurry. So what I did is that I opened up my filter because, as I said, it's an ND variable filter. I made it less dark so that I could still get, you know, long exposure, but this time 30 seconds because I was trying to get that boat sharp. And I think I made it like 1.6 seconds. So my ND filter is barely doing anything. And this is, but this is more sharp. Okay, that's one. But actually the one I like the most is this one. I think this one is pretty cool. So let me retouch one of these photos real quick. I mean, the retouching is pretty easy. This one is blurry. I must have moved somehow. Look at this one, how it's blurry. So I'm not going to retouch this one. I think I'm going to retouch this one. This one I think is kind of cool. And I'm going to go for a little black and white. It's rather simple. First, let's go into the develop module. And I'm going to use the, well, I'm going to reset the framing. And I'm going to use the angle to make my horizontal line, you know, straight. Maybe a bit less of, yeah, something like that. Okay, I still got some sensor dust here. Let me press I to take that out. You know, and then it's just the usual stuff, you know, open up the shadows, bring down the highlights. On this one, I'm going to do the white point. Okay, white points. So for those who don't know what the white point is, I'm just pressing the Alt key and moving to the right. The whole screen is black, and when you see some red dots, it means that you've reached what we call a white point. These red dots are pure white points. And, okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for the blacks, so I have a better contrast. Okay, maybe I'm gonna take the saturation out. I'm gonna make it black and white, and let's see. Maybe I'm gonna try for like a little high key look, or I don't know, something like this. Okay, there is some sensor dust here. I need to clean my sensor really bad. I've been bad. People's been leaving complaints because my sensor is bad. Okay, oh my God. It's not working well. Okay. Yeah, that should do the trick. Oh my God, it does it. I have to go into Photoshop. Anyways, I'm not going to bother you with that. I would take that off. It's not so much of a retouching trick I wanted to show you. It's more a technical photographic trick of how you would go about that. But I think it's a cool effect, you know. Let's see what this one would do. Let's retouch this one. Somehow I think this one would be better. Yeah, this one looks kind of nice. White, black, and let's desaturate it, not completely. Let's leave some, you know, some stuff. Maybe, yeah, add some clarity. And you know, I like what it does with the water. You know, it's kind of a cool effect. Anyways, I'm gonna give you this file. Yeah, I like this one. It's kind of cool. I'm gonna give you this file, and I think I'm gonna give you this file plus the checklist, so you can, you know, go over with it and see for yourself. Yeah, I don't know. This one I'm not so hot on. Anyways, so that's the whole idea. That's just a little introduction on taking long exposures. Maybe this one I'm gonna go Actually, completely black and white, yeah, probably. And just add a bit of contrast, and yeah, I actually really like this one more than the other one. I actually even like that framing. So that's long exposure. You know, it makes the water a bit silky, makes the clouds, you know, it gives interesting effect, and it's the contrast between the solid elements and the moving elements that makes the photo. You know, that's the whole idea. And voila, this is how you do it. Hope this inspires you on going out there with and buying an ND filter and give it a try. You can get amazing results. There's really some really nice photos that I like. Let me show you a few. Like, for example, this is a shot I got in La Défense, you know, so it's a very long exposure shot, and the building is very, very stable, and the clouds are very, very stretched. That's another one that I got there, you know, very graphical type of composition. That's another one. It works really well in the city, you know. And that's one last one. And let me show you another one. That's another one that I got in Notre Dame, you know, with a silky, look at the, you know, the sky, and the water is very silky. So it's a really cool trick. You should give it a try. It gives really nice effects. It's totally unnatural. Some people hate it, but I love it. All right, so let's get back to me, and I hope you learned something and you like this. Bye-bye. All right, guys, I hope you like this tutorial and that you're going to try out long exposure photography. It is so fun, and I love the effect that it does. I thank you very much for being there on every episode, and I'll see you in the next episode. Mesdames et messieurs, au revoir.